tick bites are on the rise, and along with it, the alpha-gal syndrome. And it's one of the fastest growing and most misunderstood allergic conditions in the United States today. Yet many people have never even heard of what it is. Today we're breaking it down. What alpha-gal is, where it comes from, why it's increasing, how it affects the body, and what you can do to protect yourself and your family. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Life TV Now, where we unpack all matters of truth, faith, and freedom. I'm your host, Joe Artis Horn. I cannot wait for today's program. We're going to be going over some information that reveals some insights into some dilemmas I was experiencing even myself last week with some of the content we were talking about that had me kind of uneasy. But today we're going to be talking about solutions and what you can do, what I can do, what we can do to protect our families from this thing called alpha-gal. But before we dive in, let me introduce who's here. She's an integrative nutrition health coach with a Master of Science in Health Education. Please welcome our executive producer, Jamie Woodle. And she's a medical assistant, a mother of 3, and an alpha-gal survivor. Please welcome Ashley Blake. I want to hit the ground running today, Ashley. If you missed last week's program, go back to wherever it is that you watch Life TV Now. Maybe download our brand new mobile app free so that you can stay up to speed with all of our programs. Don't miss any of our content. Again, go to the App Store and download our Life TV Now mobile app, absolutely free. What I'm getting at is go back to the archives and watch last week's program. We were blessed to hear your triumphant overcoming of this syndrome called alpha-gal. We did not get a lot into the details in terms of what supplements maybe helped you kind of overcome some of what you were dealing with. But just to recap, you went many months following a tick bite, experiencing all kinds of anomalistic breakouts. You vomited daily for months on end. Doctors could not explain what this is. One night, you land in the emergency room, and finally, by the grace of God, somebody tells you, we know what your problem is. You have alpha-gal.
Yeah.
And then since then, you've been through the careful elimination diets. You went through this whole period of time with your family where you can't eat out. And you said there was some resentment attached to that. Family plans getting rearranged or canceled. And it was not an immediate path back to feeling better. Months after this tick bite and even your diagnosis on the elimination diet and talking to allergists, you finally found breakthrough when you started taking care of your gut. She started eating fermented foods, I'm assuming probiotics or steps therein to rebuild a healthy gut microbiome. We're not going to spend all day unpacking gut health. That's a whole other series of programs. But I want it said, that was when you first began feeling much, much better, and what now today is a completely different life resembling the one that originally earned the diagnosis alpha-gal. Today, I want to focus a lot on, what it is and what people need to know about it, why it's on the rise, and what can be done to protect yourself. We do camps every year. We're out in the woods with the children of Whispering Ponies Ranch. They come by way of Royal Family Kids. We're doing ministry. Our whole operation takes place 300 acres, and I literally cannot stop the tick bites. I cannot stop the chigger bites. Now, you and Jamie both have spent a lot of time researching alpha-gal, so let's just start here. For those that missed last week, your incredible description of what it is and what makes it different from other typical food allergies.
Yeah, so like we discussed last week, alpha-gal is and it can be a serious life-threatening condition that is caused by a tick bite. And it is even further into that solely from a sugar molecule that is found in mammals. And it's natural to mammals, but not natural to humans. So when a tick goes and bites this mammal, keeps it in saliva, and then it comes and bites you or me or somebody else and gets into the bloodstream. And then that's when our antibodies, that's when our immune system goes, this is not supposed to be here. It remembers it. And then when we consume that red meat or that mammal byproduct, then our body attacks it. And the only way that it knows how to do that is through an allergic reaction. And the way that it's different from most allergies is that it has a big time delay. And so most doctors are going to tell you that your allergic reaction is going to be anywhere between 2 to 6 hours after consumption. And even in more extreme cases like mine was 24 to 48 hours after consumption. So we really didn't know what it was.
It's very
for a
hard
long
to
time.
track
Yeah.
or pinpoint.
It is.
They also, when you go in and they're like, oh, clearly there's an allergic reaction, they usually test for proteins. This is not a protein that the body is reacting to. It's a sugar, an alpha galactose, which is why it's called alpha-gal. And so it goes many months sometimes undiagnosed. In fact, I spoke to a woman just last summer where she, over a year, they started telling her she was nuts. She's crazy. She was vomiting after eating. And eventually she just found her own way into a vegan diet because that's the only way she could function and take care of her family. And it was months after that that they knew to test for that. And they were like, oh, you have alpha-gal. You're not crazy. And so that is one reason why we felt it was very important to do this show because it may be more common to some of us in the Ozarks or in the Midwest and even in the Southeast too, where it is most prevalent, but spreading the awareness because there could be someone out there suffering right now with just mysterious symptoms and not even know that they could ask for a test to test for alpha-gal. A lot of doctors don't know.
Well, and Jamie, this isn't just theoretical book knowledge. You didn't just sit down one day and Google this thing out. This is very personal to you.
Yeah.
You want to talk just briefly about your encounter with what happened with your family with this whole thing?
Yes, we were new to the Ozarks and we have 10 acres. We have to do a lot of weeding, bushwhacking. Well, my husband often would get chigger bites and things like that. Well, there was one day where we were just relaxing after a long day, and I had given my husband a chip, and this does relate, I promise. It was a sweet potato chip, and within 2 minutes, he started to break out in hives. And the joke was, you were trying to kill me with this sweet potato chip that he had never had before. He's like, I must be allergic to sweet potatoes. And it was a long time of just random allergic reactions, and he couldn't figure it out.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, horrible gut issues, hives, and it took months of testing and doctor visits to find out that it was alpha-gal. But here's the thing you're not going to like, Joe. He had chigger bites many times. Both of us have. Our children. Chigger bites are very, very normal. Very, very common. He had only had one tick bite. It was a very small tick, and it was barely even attached. And it was on the outside of his pinky toe. You know, sometimes that area can get callous, so it wasn't even hardly in there. He just plucked it right off. Head and everything, was crawling, normal, and alpha-gal. So the doctors told him, because they also are taught, it needs to be latched likely for 24 hours or more for you to get it. So they're thinking it could have been the chiggers, actually, now.
No, I know. And here we are in the Midwest. I don't like any of this, but we are hearing about this on the rise. And that's the other reason we wanted to do this program, because this program literally specializes in featuring the emergent stuff that most of the Babylonian construct either knows very little about or they're just learning of it themselves. The things that they offer are just not in keeping with the natural stuff that God is going to use likely to bring true lasting restoration. So where are we seeing this the most right now?
It's definitely most prevalent in the Midwest, the Southeast, but there are parts of some of the northern areas also seeing them now, unfortunately, especially we're not getting those cold winters that would normally kill a lot of them off. And so it is spreading.
It's getting bad.
It is getting really bad.
One of the challenges, Ashley, with alpha-gal is that it often goes undiagnosed. And I know that was your early on experience. That was John Woodall, my friend, Jamie's husband. And they're looking at allergies or elimination diets, or they're telling you to talk to an allergist, or like in your case last week, she talked about doctors just telling her, well, it's an unknown autoimmune condition. We really don't know what's causing this. What are some of the most common symptoms if people are maybe watching this and they're like, I don't know, do I have alpha-gal? What is this?
Yeah, common symptoms can even go down to feeling overwhelming fatigue, like being just run down, headaches, night sweats, cold sweats. and vomiting, upset digestion. So they're having to frequent bathrooms. So if you're vomiting, if you have an under the skin rash, because most of the time when we think of an allergic reaction, it's on top, right? And it itches. And we have hives and we've got bumps. Even if you have under the skin rash and it's not itching, but it is spreading, that can be a sign of it as well. So I'd say just monitor your symptoms, and I'd write and document everything down: when you got the symptom, how long it's been taking, and what you did to relieve it, and if it did relieve it in any way.
Yeah. It's very elusive. It's very difficult. And a lot of states, I imagine, probably aren't even prioritizing these types of tests and stuff if you live in a region that doesn't really get, specifically tick bites and stuff. But man, oh man, we've been in Missouri for, nearly 20 years, and I have seen the occasional tick bite too. There are just legions of them now. And I mean that literally. There are just legions of them now. With tick exposure being a major risk, let's get into my favorite direction of this show, practical steps. And we're going to be talking briefly about essential oils and also your journey last week. I wanted to draw out a little bit more of some of the things that you did in addition to just gut prioritizing.
Yeah.
Fermented foods, probiotics. Were there other things, lifestyle, spiritual? Were there things that you leaned into to get you past the symptomology of alpha-gal?
For the first 2 years of my diagnosis, I was not very happy in any way. I actually struggled, and I prayed almost daily. I was like, God, why are you allowing me to go through this? I'm mad. My family's struggling and I'm struggling, and I don't understand why I have to go through it. And of course, God is very patient. He's like, child, just wait and you'll understand. And so it took a little bit of time, but that prayer and that consistent being with him, God, I need your help. Please, Lord, bless this food. Let's make sure that we're not having an allergic reaction today. I would really like not to use my EpiPen. And he's always faithful. He's always going to be there, especially for his children. So that was my number one. Like, I always turn to him. Even when I was mad, he wants us mad when we come to him, right? Mad, happy, sad, he wants it all. And so after that, it was looking at all the labels, making sure that I wasn't getting that cross-contamination and really honing in on that.
Cross-contamination of what, for those that maybe aren't sure what you mean by that?
So my allergy, like I said last week, is so severe that milk products especially were my highest allergy.
Okay.
So if there was any traces of milk, or it says may contain, or on equipment with, or possibly on equipment with.
Yeah.
And that's on everything. Anything that has a label on it seems
Yes.
like would have that.
So I had to really focus in on reading every single label.
Yeah.
Not just that, but I had to cut out, certain medications that I was taking, because medications too contain gelatin capsules. That's bovine.
Man, I can't even imagine you trying to just carve some of those things out of your existence.
Yeah, even further into that,
It's in everything.
Yeah, it is. Most people don't know about this medication. It's called magnesium stearate, and it's actually bovine bone particles inside the medicines itself. So it's a filler.
Yeah, no, I know. In fact, magnesium stearate, not that I'm going to stump on this for a minute, but our Eden's Essentials products, we don't use binders, fillers. You're not going to see magnesium stearates, silicone dioxides.
To be honest, I didn't start taking supplements until way later in my journey. Actually, just 2 years ago is when I really started honing in on what my body really needed and what was missing. So I had to go to the hospital. I was severely malnourished. I was losing a lot of blood somewhere in my body. We didn't quite know where it was coming from, but I was so tired. I couldn't sleep, and I was up all the time. So they took my iron levels, and they said, your ferritin is at a 2%. And and you are severely malnourished. We need you to start taking
I don't even know
iron.
how you were conscious at that point.
Yeah.
By the grace of God, I was still functioning, taking care of, at the time, 5 children and running a household. So it was God the whole time. I shouldn't be here, but I am. So all glory goes to him on that one. But that's when I started to really figure out what my body needed, because everybody's bodies are different. What might work for me might not work for you.
Sure.
And I needed that overconsumption of iron in order to continue life. But not just that. When you take iron, you have to take other supplements to bind that iron to make sure that it's going through the entire body. So I really started learning about that just about 2 years ago. And that's changed my life completely.
Just an understanding of how to nourish your body.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I would love to tell you there's a bullet point list of things that would work for everybody in this. What I'm hearing you describe, in my view, if I'm watching this at home and I don't have experience, what I'm hearing you describe is if you have any of these symptoms, you may want to ask your doctor to run a panel specifically for alpha-gal. And if you find out that that is part of your dilemma or the whole of the dilemma, you probably are looking now for a naturopathic or a natural doctor, somebody that looks at this holistically, that can help you with your macronutrients, your micronutrients, run panels, do a K panel, look at your thyroid, look at your mineral levels and your vitamin levels so that you can get that nourishment back into your body without, triggering, like the magnesium stearates are in tons of supplements. Not ours, but in tons of supplements. They cut corners, they use binders. And so you could be looking at something that otherwise your body needs, but it's encapsulated in something that's going to throw red flags up with your immune system. In fact, before we continue, let me just take this quick occasion to tell you about something that I'm seeing help a lot of people who are looking to support healthy blood sugar levels and a healthy insulin response. Something I absolutely love, and I think you're going to love it too. I'm talking about Eden's Essentials new and improved blood sugar formula. It's a thoughtfully crafted botanical blend with ingredients like cinnamon bark, gymnema, fenugreek, bitter melon, and chromium, designed to support healthy metabolic function and help maintain normal blood sugar levels and overall balance in the body. It's made with clean, plant-based ingredients, no fillers, no artificial additives or preservatives. We're talking about just a pure, carefully sourced formula that you can trust in a clean, simple, easy-to-take capsule. And right now, we have a special going on at Eden's Essentials where you can save 15% off your next purchase of our blood sugar formula when you use the promo code SUGLTN at checkout. And here's the thing, I don't know how long these prices are going to last. I don't know how long this promo code is going to last, so don't delay. Try Eden's blood sugar formula today with promo code SUGLTN and save 15% off your next order. Now, getting back to alpha-gal, I just want to say before we turn the channel that there are people in the natural holistic community, I'm talking about practitioners, chiropractors, naturopathic doctors that are using homeopathic approach. And like, for example, my good friend, Dr. Josh Vance, that you've heard me talk about many, many times for a decade now, as he was instrumental to helping me get my gut under control a decade ago, instrumental in my leaving what I call the Babylonian construct. He's very sober, but he uses homeopathic medicine. And he tells me that they've had nearly 100% success rate getting alpha-gal into remission with homeopathic vials. Now, if you want to look him up, Josh Vance, amazing chiropractor in Republic, Missouri. You can contact Vance Chiropractic. You can set your appointment up if you live out here in the Midwest and you want to make it a day trip. They see people from all over the place. They might even be willing to work you in as a Zoom, but you'd have to check with them about it. But there are others like Dr. Matthew Sams. So it could be that you might be able to look up a homeopathic doctor and say, are you guys doing stuff with alpha-gal? And that might be one of the ways that you can avoid dealing with some of these medications where they're sneaking a lot of these bovine factors in, and you take something maybe orally that you don't even know is part of the continuing trigger, which I know, Jamie, you've got more to say about all the ways that these are, being presented in our foods and in our capsules and our everything, our supplements. Go ahead.
I know you had touched on earlier how there is dairy or even traces of it, in everything. And when you have alpha-gal, your level of sensitivity could vary. For example, my husband can have dairy. and his numbers are getting better. It's been about a year since his diagnosis, and he is getting better. A little cross-contamination is fine. If there's a little bacon grease on something, he doesn't go into hives or anything. But it is in everything.
Yeah.
And I know just because I have to avoid dairy for sensitivity issues, not a reaction, but you'll find whey in all of the ultra-processed foods nearly. I don't know why they feel they need to put that into all the baked goods. It is awful, but it goes beyond that. There are things you don't think about. Drugs, medications that you take, some of them come in a gelatin capsule or have fillers or other compounds in there related to a mammal product. Also, another one that we don't think about are injections, which are also known as biologics. They can contain different kinds of animal product in there as well, which could cause you to go into a reaction. And here was one that blew my mind. Even some medical devices like mesh and heart valves, things that you don't think about. And so for those that are diagnosed or are seeking a diagnosis, you could even be getting triggered by things that aren't normally on your radar. But if you are diagnosed or you suspect you are diagnosed, number one, you must avoid getting bit by a tick again.
Yep.
Because maybe if you're bit once and you have it, it's not that bad. But if you get bit again, your levels can skyrocket. And there are a lot of things actually holistically that you can do. And I know you and I have talked about this. We use essential oils to help deter the ticks from even crawling on us or biting us, things like that.
And we're going to bring a few of these up on the screen in the spirit of being useful, but go ahead and write these down or take a screenshot. But we're talking about apricot oil, witch hazel. That's a big one. We're going to be building our own cocktails at home. Witch hazel is going to be one of the primary features of these sprays that we're going to be making naturally and holistically to keep them off of us this summer when we go out into the woods to serve the children at Whispering Ponies Ranch. Tea tree oil is another big deterrent. They do not like tea tree oil. Lemongrass, geranium is a huge one. And you can go on YouTube, you can go anywhere where you watch social media, you can find out videos. There's do-it-yourself, DIY videos on how to make your own sprays, oils, spreads, lotions, and then you're going to want to write down cedar wood. That's another one really popular. Now, they're available in all kinds of different combinations, or you can make one that you feel resonates with you, maybe even pray about it. But those are some really powerful natural deterrents for applying to yourself topically, your shoes, your clothes.
Sulfur powder is another one as well.
Yeah, that's one you told me that you use on your boots that's really helped when you're out doing the gardening and working in the soil. Ashley, getting back to your journey, I think your journey is evidence that probably foretells a lot of people asking this question. Well, I've heard that alpha-gal, or I went and looked it up, and it looks like some people just get over it. Maybe a very mild case, or maybe it just resolves over time. Yeah. In your case, you weren't so fortunate.
No.
And I don't know if you view this in this framework. Do you think that God allowed you to experience just short of death, really pushing that ceiling of the experience because he knew that someday you would meet people with a platform like this where you could talk to hundreds of thousands of people that might be in your shoes now as a surrogate for hope?
Yeah.
Because when I look at your testimony, I think, man, this is so familiar. God allows people to go through things. You can't see it at the time, but it's because he's preparing you to be a glimmer of hope. Maybe the one that pulls them out of the Babylonian construct. Maybe the one that has the story they latch onto that presents them with the hope that they needed in their darkest hour. And maybe for them, that's you today. Yeah. You haven't had this self-resolving, very quick 6-month stint. You've had to continue working on your diet. Yeah. How do you feel today versus what you said 7 years ago this all started?
Yeah, it'll be 7 years this July that I've had it. I had that minor, stint of not having it for 6 months. But even in that moment, we were still trying to maintain somewhat of the stability of the diet that we were having. Today, I feel great. I've maintained this diet for quite some time. Now it's part of my life. It's part of who we are at home. And you're right, God does allow some of us to go through trials that are a little bit more extended than others so that we can reach out and give hope to those people. I don't think just that, though. For me and my experience with this, he showed me that it was really time to take care of the body that he had given me. It's no longer time to just use it the way that you want to. It's time to treat it as the temple that he gave you, right? And so along the way, we found out that, I did have lupus. Now it's in remission. I had PCOS and now it's in remission. And so by taking care of my body, God healed it along the way. And so, but today I feel great.
I think I said this last week. We sit here and we see a reoccurring pattern, and I'm in that group as well. If you go back to how heavy I was and the abject disaster that my life felt at the time, we're talking about, a decade or more ago, and they were testing me they actually tested me for Lyme's. I came back very high cytomegalovirus. This isn't about me, and we've only got a couple of minutes, but the point is you can honestly see where God used that desperate need to be well, to carve out all of this garbage from our lives to learn. Like I'm sitting here listening to you talk about learning to read labels. I mean, I wrote Time Bomb in 2018. What was I talking about? Read the labels. Like, the only difference between you and me and a whole bunch of other people is maybe they haven't experienced their existential health crisis yet. But 80% of Americans are walking around with, what did I call it? 10 years ago almost? A time bomb in their gut that they're not even aware is percolating. Yeah. Or maybe they're treating it with pharmaceuticals and it blew up way back and they're suffering and they don't realize that it's diet related. They don't know that they need their cruciferous vegetables. They don't know that they need to detox their liver. They're actually making it worse through the pharmaceutical interventions that they're on. And so that's why this program exists, is we're here to illuminate people's testimonies. And I told the Lord a decade ago, I said, Lord, if you would restore my health, which, by the way, is not a one and done. I never experienced what you see on TV sometime where God just goes, bing, and man, oh man, are you back? It was this slow, pragmatic, and today, 10 years later, I am no longer the man that I was. You are no longer the human being that you were 10 years ago.
Right.
At times, you don't even feel like you have an option to go back. You don't want to go back. You would never go back. And in doing that, you're able to evangelize others and say, man, there is really hope, but it's a long, pragmatic process. Yeah. I love the spontaneous healing. God can do it anytime he wants, but I'm convinced that he often allows us. There's people here today going through things that I believe they're going to overcome, but it's that long, pragmatic process of learning how your temple works.
Yeah.
And fueling it for good as opposed to sabotaging it in ignorance. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
Joe, I agree. I think during this time where we are doing this health journey and we are working on our bodies, it is a time of pruning, a time of self-examination, and really seeking God and refining us spiritually and physically as well.
Well, Ashley, we would love to have you back at some point in the future. We'll check back in on to see how you're doing. For everybody in studio, for everybody up here on panel, Ashley, Jamie, thank you for being here this week, right here on Life TV Now. Unfortunately, we're all out of time, but keep your eyes on the prize, which is Jesus Christ. We'll be back.